Hello, welcome back to Crochet and Chit Chat with Barefoot Ginger, working on my project. Remember this project from my last Crochet and Chit Chat? Yeah, see, it makes my face turn orange. So when we left off, this thing was very little. And now it's not very little. Now it's big. See, it doesn't fit in the camera, but isn't that beautiful? I have a story to tell about this has caused some drama. So let's talk about that drama. But just to recap, remember I'm making this guy. That's the back. You can see right there that I sewed two panels together. This beautiful sweater. Here's the sleeve. This beautiful sweater. Two hexagons sewn together. I added some length and then a cuff. So I'm making that for a friend for her birthday. And this is the color I chose. I had two skeins of Red Heart Super Saver. This is what caused all the drama. The Red Heart Super Saver ombre in this specific color, which is sea coral. It's a beautiful kind of a cross between a pink and a salmon. When I started this project, I only had two skeins, right? So I just knew that this is the one that I wanted to crochet for her. I just knew that. But making that other one, I knew that it was going to take me more than two skeins. But I started anyway with full faith and confidence that I could just run my happy behind down to one of three big box craft stores we have in this city and pick up a couple more. Oh, nay, that did not happen. So I started, you can see where I just joined on my new skein, but this is one skein. This whole thing that you see right here is one skein. And that is going to end up, if you can imagine, a sleeve and a back panel. See, I kind of have it in an L shape. It's not going to look exactly like that. But when it's all sewed together, it's going to turn into two sleeves, a back, and an open front cardigan. And I knew that it was going to take more than two skeins. But like I said, I thought, that in all faith and good confidence, I could just run over to one of the three fabric big box craft stores that we have and pick up a couple more. So I figured I'm just going to get started, blow through as much as I can, and then I'll do that. No, it didn't work out that way. So on Saturday, my husband had a bunch of stuff he needed to do on the truck, so I thought I'll just go over to craft store number 1 and just pick up a couple skeins. And they didn't have very much of the Red Heart ombre in different colors, but they didn't have this color at all, not even a little bit. And so I hunted down an employee, and she looked up on her little scanner thing, and she said they were supposed to have two skeins in stock, and they were clearing them out. And I thought that's perfect, because at this big box store they're like $9.50 a skein, and that's ridiculous. When I bought this for a different project a few years ago, I think they were, I don't know, $7.50 maybe. So yarn has gone up a lot. But we couldn't find it. She went to all the clearance places and couldn't find it. So I was super frustrated. And then I went across the street to big box craft store number 2. And they don't even carry Red Heart brand. So that was bummer number 2. Well, I needed to go to Walmart anyway. And Walmart does sell Red Heart. They had one skein of this, which would have given me 3. Wouldn't be enough. I need 4. So I thought, well, they had 4 skeins of a different color. It was kind of this fuchsia pink called Jazzy that was cute. And I thought, okay, so I get all 4 of those. So as I'm up at the front in the self-checkout and I have them all laid out, 1 skein out of 4, even though it was the same color, the same lot number, because you want to look at lot numbers to make sure, because that's why sometimes even with the right lot numbers, all the numbers matched, but 1 skein was a completely different pink. So then that left me with the dilemma. If I would have bought the coral, I would have only had 3 colors, 3 skeins of the coral. If I would have bought the pink Jazzy color, I would have only had 3 skeins of that. So now I'm super frustrated, and it's Saturday afternoon, and it was hot, and I was hangry. Don't ever shop and make decisions, because I bought the 3 skeins of the Jazzy. I might take them back. I'll probably take them back. I don't know. I mean, because if I make this again, I know how many skeins of yarn I'm going to need, unless it's a small person. If I make it for my granddaughter, I could probably get away with 3, but even still, she's a woman small? I think she's a woman small. So I would just have to try it on her and see at the point where I think it might fit. Anyway, so I fire up my mobile app for one of the for both big box stores, and the one has a 4-pack of this color, only a 4-pack. That's all they have. So in order for me to buy it, I have to buy 4 more skeins. So that means this project would take a total of 6 skeins, and I'd probably have 2 skeins left over. Like this whole thing is just, you know, I don't even know what to say. I don't. So I thought, I really want to give her this project, but I really want this. This speaks so much to me on who she is. But I wanted a project to present. So when I'm at the final box store, rapidly losing my patience, feeling very frustrated and very overwhelmed, I come across this. Now this is beautiful. This is very beautiful yarn. It's soft, much softer than this. But look at the difference. Look at the difference. I don't have, this is beautiful yarn. No, I'm not saying it's not beautiful yarn. It's Karen Blossom Cakes, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's soft. It's the same yardage. I would use a bigger hook, though, because I think it's slightly heavier. However, this is not speaking to my heart for my friend. I'll probably pull this out. Like we learned in the last video, I'll probably frog it. So, here I am, starting on this. So I will be presenting my friend with an unfinished project. So that was my yarn drama for this weekend. That was a good kickoff. I'm sorry, my dog just about knocked over the tripod. She won't stay out of this room. This room is a mess. This room used to be my son's room. She really wants to get up on the old grungy bed. I need to throw the mattress away. She really wants to get up there. But right now she's sniffing his old clothes. I think she misses him. He spent a lot of time in this room the last 7 years. So I won't let her in here because I'm just in the process of cleaning it out, and you know, there's not anything dangerous on the floor, but I don't, you know, there's little bits of food, maybe old potato chip crumbs and things like that. So she just comes in and licks the floor for fun. I guess that's what you do when you're an 8-year-old retriever. So here we are. I'm just going to go around and around and around, and that's what this project is all about, is just going around and around and around. So I am going to work through this as fast as I can. I'm not even done with this panel. And today is Monday, and we leave on Sunday. She's not going to be up there till Tuesday, but I'll probably have this done in a couple days. So, so that's how my Saturday went. I was feeling very frustrated, and I was feeling very defeated. I felt like the universe was conspiring against me. I don't ask much for the universe, but I was feeling very defeated. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to order it on the app. Hopefully I can find a coupon because it's also more than I wanted to spend. But it's going to be, 10 times 4, 10, yeah, so it's going to be $40 plus whatever the shipping cost is. So I'm not super happy about that either because I have to pay shipping for it when I don't know why I'm going to try again when I'm ready to order it. The other hack, when I'm ready to order, I'm going to see if I can get it to go store pickup. The other hack is that I use plain ordinary zip top bags. There are products out there that are fancy, big bottles, big jars with holes in the lid. You draw this through the hole. I have one. The problem with that is you're married to that jar until you finish the project. Well, I've abandoned the project. So one thing you need to know about crocheters is that often we will start a project and then we abandon them. Why did I abandon this? Because I ended up hating the project. And it was lots of color changes. And so when you do lots of color changes, you could run them up the side, but I cut them off, thinking I was going to make fringe. I just didn't like the way it turned out. So I haven't frogged it. And so that jar is still attached to that blanket because I don't want to snip the yarn. Zip top bags. I can just, if I need the zip top bag for something else, but zip top bags at Walmart are super cheap, so why would I need to worry about this? But I can take this out. Super easy, right? The other thing I can do is, if I want to control the yarn, I can just kind of squish it down, and I can just zip it in. See, I can just zip it in, and I can have just a little bit of the bag open. Although sometimes it doesn't cooperate because zip top off-label zip top bags don't always. There we go. See? So if I'm in the car, this is something I'll do, and see, you can still pull it. Yarn doesn't like to get squished though, so I can just foresee some yarn barf. But yeah, so that's what you do, and it's just in there nice and happy. And then I can just drop it on the floor wherever I am. Yep, see, it didn't like that. So it started to get all yarn barfy. So if I just open it up, then we're back in business. So that's what I do. So I just pull a lot. Anyway, so that's now it's not happy. Now it's fussing at me. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that because now I don't like fussy yarn. That's why I do center pull. So I don't have to spend all my energy fussing with the yarn. So I work from home on Mondays, and I had my husband pull the screen thinking that I was going to go outside, and I ended up spending 4 hours with one of my on-site visits for my job, so I didn't get to do that, and now it's too hot to sit out there. So we're going to sit in here. Otherwise, I would have sat outside. So just working on this. This is my project, and then what do we got in world events? Do we want to talk about world events today? Well, we know that there was an attempted overtake of Russia that was failed. We know that China's not happy with the United States, and our American president is apologizing. that's also happened in the past. So it's fun to be an American right now when we have our president apologizing for things that were said on behalf of or by or about their country by people that live here. What an embarrassment. Can you imagine? Here we are, the world's superpower, right? We're supposed to be the most powerful nation in the world. We're supposed to have the strongest army. We're supposed to have the best constitution with regard to people being sovereign. We're supposed to have all of these things. And yet we have such a weak political system. Doesn't matter which way you lean, it's all garbage. It's all corrupt, it's all broken. That now we are faced with people who are in charge of us apologizing to the largest and probably the most dangerous country in the world. And I don't know where we've gotten. I don't know what brought us here. Was it complacency? Did we just forget to be vigilant when we vote for people? We forget to hold them accountable? Do we vote for people that don't align with our values just for the sake of voting for the lesser of two evils? Hold on, I need to drink water. One of my sweet coworkers gave me this with hot chocolate in it before I started drinking coffee. And now it also works for water or whatever. So anyway, so we have that. And then we have the son's president, the president's son getting out of some really serious charges, which continues to tell the world that we are corrupt. We can't handle our business. We have a former president being indicted on federal charges for the sole purpose of keeping him from winning another election. So, yeah, let's break that down. I'm not on purpose using names, but a former president who's very loud and boisterous, who only won one term, has now been indicted by his own government on 34 charges of, I don't know, I think it has something to do with classified documents, improperly handling them, improperly storing them, something along those lines. And we have a former Secretary of State who did so much worse than that. I'm not saying it's okay at all. I'm not a fan of this current former president that I'm referring to that's under indictment. I'm not a fan of his. However, the former Secretary of State who didn't have the authority to take classified documents and unclassify them and store them somewhere else faced zero accountability for something much worse. And why is it much worse? Because said Secretary of State did not have the authority as Secretary of State to do what she did. So that's where we are with American politics, current events. There's also a lot of post-pandemic shot information that is floating around. I guess people are finally starting to discover that maybe we were tricked and maybe we were duped and maybe we were led by fear. That's an important topic to consider too, is being led by fear. So fear is a powerful tool. Fear is what tells our brain that something's wrong initially. That's the crux of fear, right? Fear is an emotion. That's all it is. All fear is an emotion. It's when our brain says, oh, something's wrong. So then we have fight, flight, or freeze when our brain isn't happy. When it says, oh, I need to protect you, whether it's information we've heard or, if you're narrowly escaped a pretty bad car accident or whatever the case may be that caused that fear response in your subconscious brain. So fear Fear can motivate us to do good things, right? If I'm afraid of dying, I'm going to do what I need to do to not get diabetes. So that's a motivating factor through fear, is that I'm going to get healthy and strong so I don't have serious health complications from a disease that ravages your body. Fear can also keep us in our homes. We have extreme fear called agoraphobia, where people don't leave their homes because they're literally afraid of what's outside. They're literally so afraid of the unknown that it paralyzes them and they stay inside. And then the spectrum all in between. What we do know is that when someone with nefarious purposes sees an opportunity through fear to wrest control, they do it. And it's not good at all, even a little bit. We see throughout the annals of history what happens when bad people use fear and coercion to their own ends. I could name some big world events. World War II, the events leading up to World War II in Germany, any other, dictators in Russia, all sorts of places, China now has always kind of put their thumb through fear because they're powerful on some of the smaller islands surrounding that country and inflicting pain and torture on them. We have the Middle East, all the things that happen there. That's all led through fear. Suicide bombers, all those things. So we know that fear can drive people to do good things, but we know that fear can also paralyze people. And that's exactly what has happened the last 3 years. Is fear was used initially. We were all kind of, oh dear. They told us that 25 million Americans were going to be dead in 6 months. That's really scary. Legitimately, that's an honest emotion. Because nothing like that has happened in recent history. So they decided, oh, well, we like this. We like that we can say, go home for 2 weeks. And then everything will be fine. We'll tell you, we'll tell you when it's safe to come out. And they never did. We just got tired and came out. Most of us did. But along the way, there were things that were contrary to human nature, that took away our informed consent and took away our free will. How did anything about the last 3 years take away our informed consent? Well, let's think about the medical profession. We no longer have medical professionals who work side by side with us. They say, here, take this pokey in order for you to go back to work. And if you don't take it, you'll lose your livelihood. And nobody else will hire you because they'll see that that's why you lost your job, was because you didn't comply. Because we told you that it was safe to take. So what's wrong with you? Why aren't you listening to us? So that happened for a really long time. And it was rolling out in each different state. And governors were saying, oh yes, you have to do this. And here in Idaho, our governor didn't enforce that kind of mandate, except on the state level employees. So half of the state was forced to make a decision, and half the state wasn't. How is that decision ever okay? How on earth do, even within a local government structure like a state, say, oh, well, half of you have to choose and half of you don't. Because I'm in the category of those that don't. I got to make a decision. So, but my husband was in a different boat. And the other part about the lack of informed consent that I think is super important is all the medical professionals and all the doctors made decisions about people's personal medical history. They didn't know the guy on the corner. They didn't know his medical history. They didn't know his vulnerability, if he was allergic to, if he'd had a vaccine injury before, and his doctor had told him, oh, none of that mattered. It was still safe. Take it. You're in the high risk category. Take it. We had senior citizens living in assisted living and skilled nursing facilities that were being kicked out for choosing to not take it. Because why wouldn't you take it? You're at the highest risk category, right? Why wouldn't you take it? Why wouldn't you keep your neighbor safe? That was the narrative. It's your job to keep each other safe. And so that's the third point with this lack of informed consent is, when in the history of our country have we ever been forced to make a health decision, a health care decision, based on my neighbor's well-being? Never. But yet arguments broke out. Arguments broke out in my family. Arguments broke out about that exact concept of keeping each other safe. And that was the argument, was, why wouldn't we? Why don't you want to keep grandma and grandpa safe? Why don't you want to keep your neighbor safe? Why don't you want to keep, my mother-in-law and my aging aunt by marriage? Why wouldn't we want to keep them safe? They're in their 90s. Why would we want to needlessly expose them to, this really deadly bug going around, when all it would take would be to get the jabby jab, and magically they're no longer at risk because I got a jabby jab. I'm not saying whether the jabby jab is neither here nor there. I'm saying that inherently it was as a result of the jabby jab, we lost informed consent in this country. And I, quite frankly, have zero faith that we're ever going to get back where we were. It was already dodgy. Healthcare in America has been flawed for a while, but this didn't help. So we lost our informed consent. We lost our ability to advocate for ourselves. Idaho has a right to try law. Idaho also has a medical advocate law, which means that we, by law, have to have the right to have a medical advocate. But when everybody was getting sick and the hospitals were being overrun, people who were admitted with the bug weren't allowed visitors. There were people that were disabled, that, had vision or hearing impairments or other sorts of language delays that prevented them from the typical communication style, that still weren't allowed, even though they were very definitely in need of accommodations. ADA went by the wayside. Masks, for example, there was no room with any of the mask mandates for accommodations for ADA. I have an ADA disability. It's an invisible disability, but it's a disability nonetheless. And at one point, I wasn't refusing to wear the mask, but the building I was in was hot and stuffy, and I was fixing to pass out. So I took my mask off and hung it on one ear for a few minutes, and I got hassled. And they didn't care that I was about to pass out, and I told them I'm about to pass out. They didn't ask if I needed medical assistance. They didn't ask if I needed an ambulance. They didn't ask anything like that. They just wanted me to put it back on. So that's what I'm talking about when I say our healthcare system has broken in such a way that I don't know that we'll ever get it back. It's in what world Would they not care that I was passing out? Like, I legit was getting ready to faint. And their response, put it back on. There was no compassion. There was no understanding. There was no empathy. There was just compliance. Is that who we are as Americans? I want to talk a little bit about civil disobedience and what the First Amendment really is. So the first 5, there are 5 protections within the First Amendment, and one is redressing our government for protesting our government for grievances, redressing grievances. So what does that mean? We get to challenge our government. It's called civil disobedience. As long, we do it every day, but it's written into the Constitution, the First Amendment of the Constitution. It was so important when the Constitution was being drafted that they didn't want the government to not be challenged by the people, because that's where they came from. They came from a super oppressive governmental system that didn't allow for civil discourse and civil disobedience. So it's actually written right into our First Amendment that we have the right to redress our government. Well, what happens? 1, 2, 3. What happens when we're not allowed to do that in the name of a worldwide virus? There is nothing in the Constitution that says it gets to get suspended if there's a worldwide virus that's killing people. We weren't under martial law. It's the only way the Constitution can get suspended. We weren't under martial law. We were under a state of emergency. So we lost a lot. We lost a lot of footing. We went backwards, and now we're starting to see some of the ramifications. All of the health emergency is officially over. We are no longer required to get the jabby jab in order to save our jobs. We are no longer forced to wear a piece of paper on our face that somebody has arbitrarily decided is going to keep us safe. So what lessons have we learned? Have we learned enough to stand up and be skeptical? I was listening to the radio on the way to one of my job sites today, and they were talking about we haven't taught our kids how to be skeptical. See, I worked with a lady at my other job that she said, "Oh, I'm just a rule follower. If they say put the mask on, I'll put the mask on. If they say get the jabby jab, they know what's best. I'm a rule follower, I'll do it." And I challenged her to that. I said, "So why not be skeptical?" And she said, "Because they wouldn't ask me to do it if they didn't think it was in my best interest." There is nothing that is in the government's best interest. There's not. It's not their job to look out for our best interest. It's their job to find for the common defense. So defend us. That's what the military is for. Keep the infrastructure safe and border security. Those are the 3 jobs of the government. Not national health emergencies. That's left to each state. And I would have even been okay with that, as unhappy as I was with our governor, doing the half and half business with private citizens versus state employees. But it still is weird that you would do that. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just say, okay, here's the recommendation. We think it's a good idea and we're going to leave it at that. People were getting bonuses. How discriminatory is it that, like, I had a client who worked at one of the national fast food chains that were giving out, I think they were giving out half a day off paid. if you got the jabby jab. So that's super discriminatory, you guys. That violates the 14th Amendment, the equal protection, right? So if you're offering this person half a day off for getting the jabby jab, what if there's a person who has had vaccine injuries and can't get vaccines, but maybe they wanted it? They just know that it's not safe for their bodies. Well, it's discriminatory. They don't get to enjoy that same perspective, or even if somebody just chose not to. I don't care what the distinction is. People who didn't get the jabby jab were not given half a day off. Only the people who did get the jabby jab. So we had all sorts of really bad decisions being made. We had Zoom court. I don't know if anybody's ever seen Zoom court. It's just straight up messed up. Straight up. Zoom court was probably one of the worst things they could have done. The due process clause says you have the right to a jury of your peers. So courts were closed. Jury trials were suspended. All trials were suspended. There again, fear, right? Even though we spent a fortune on the plexiglass industry, we still couldn't figure out how to safely hold jury trials. So we had people sitting for a year in jail waiting for their jury trial. So that violates your speedy trial rights, violates your due process rights. It violates your right to a jury trial, which is also, I think, the 6th Amendment? I don't remember. Anyway, so it violated all of those things. And then for the non-jury cases, my dog, sorry, she just can't stop. She keeps, anyway. So you've got, I watched this one. Lay down. Don't come in. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Good girl. I watched this one. My camera's crooked. It's driving me nuts. This guy was, I think it was a protection order against his wife was seeking a protection order, and she was really afraid of him. So on camera, on national YouTube, Zoom court, she ordered the cops to go get him and ordered him to turn himself in. Well, guess what he done? Guess what he done? Really, am I a hillbilly? Guess what he did? He bolted. Of course he did. Because Zoom court is stupid. And then they would sleep. They'd be in the shower. They'd be naked or half naked. They'd be cooking. They'd be holding their cat or their baby, wearing hats. And these judges just lost their minds. They're like, this is court. No, it's not court. It's a farce. You want it to be legitimate, but you're not letting me come in person. You're not letting the process be what it's supposed to be. So these people were just like, wait, I'm sitting in my living room. So by that nature, how can I take it seriously when I'm potentially facing jail time? For whether it's traffic ticket or something more serious, contempt of court or whatever, a judge can't just call someone in contempt of court and take them to lockup. They have to hope that they're going to turn themselves in. Oh, you're in contempt of court for mouthing off to me. Come turn yourself in. Do they actually think that's going to happen? No. And then they get a bench warrant, and it's a whole big thing, and completely unnecessary drama. And they still have them. There are some judges that are still doing it, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous. It was ridiculous from the very beginning, and it's still ridiculous. Open the courts back up. Make everybody make the attorneys, because now attorneys they're not even getting all the way dressed. They'll put out like a suit and a tie, a suit jacket, a shirt and a tie on, and shorts on, because they only have to be presentable from here up, right? So all of the fear and all of the oppressive behavior has just absolutely trashed our American culture, and I don't know that our culture will ever survive. I don't know that we'll ever get past it. And that kind of worries me because although we were heading down a bad path, there were some things that we still held sacred. So our Constitution has been completely trounced on in the name of fear. All in the name of fear. So when all is said and done, we're now hearing that the numbers that they're claiming of fatalities for the virus is off by about, I don't know, between 40 and 60%. So as it stands right now, I think there's somewhere like 1.2 million deaths in America. And if that number is, let's say 40%, then that drops it down to under 1 million people that actually succumbed as a direct result of the virus. Not, getting tested after you pass away, testing positive, and calling that a virus death. That's not the same thing. So they even lied about the numbers of people that passed away because it's scary, right? More than 1 million Americans lost their lives to, they're calling it the most dangerous virus ever known. I think that distinction still goes to the Black Plague. I don't think anything will ever be more deadly than the Black Plague. But they treated this like it was at least as bad, and now everybody's saying, "Oh, you can say the word on the YouTubes or whatever social media platform decided that you couldn't talk about it, because talking about it means that people are sharing information." So that's my little rant. I'm gonna get going. This has been a lovely crochet and chit chat. We'll see how it does. I'm gonna post this both places. I'm gonna see how it does on YouTube and Rumble, both. But go look me up there, either YouTube or Rumble. All right. This is the Barefoot Ginger. You're loved. You're worthy. Barefoot Ginger signing off.